Hello, this is Lino Tados, and in this video we're going to concentrate on actually demonstrating Azure AI Foundry with prompt flow and vectorization like we've done in other videos, but this time I would like to introduce the vectorization of content inside of images as well. So currently, if you bring in PDFs or Word documents or Excel spreadsheets that have images, and inside of these images there is text that may be part of a photograph or a picture, out of the box it will not be vectorized. And to be able to vectorize this, you have to use things like Azure Document Intelligence or even a third-party OCR that will capture the content of the image itself and then make it part of the vectorization, so you can ask questions in a chat, for instance, that only the response will be text that was taken in a picture inside of these images. That's not done by default. So let's go ahead and take a look at how we can actually do that. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and create a brand new resource group here in my portal for Azure. We're going to give it a name. We'll call it, for instance, RG image vect. That's good enough for me. I will leave it in East US as fine. And I'm not going to use any tags for right now. Let's go ahead and create this one. All right, and once this has been created, let's go to that resource. And I would like to create an Azure AI Foundry. So we'll say create. And really quickly, we'll say Azure AI Foundry. There it is. And we'll create also all the resources that come with an Azure AI Foundry. Let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to leave it in the same resource group. I am going to use East US. Let's see if I can see East US. There you go. And the name in here will make it Lino Hub. That's good enough for me. I will leave it in the same resource group, and I'm going to use the Azure AI service, whatever name is going to be given to us, which is weird numbers, which is fine with me. Alrighty, we'll say storage. I'm going to also need, of course, a storage account. I'm going to use the Azure Key Vault. I'm going to leave the names weird as they are. It's not a big deal for this demo, but you are more than welcome to click on create new and create whatever resource names you would like for these. I'm going to say networking. We'll keep it public. Encryption, I'm not going to choose any difference. And in here for the identity, we will use system assigned identity. That's fine. No tags for right now. Let's review, and we'll go ahead and click on create. And I'm going to stop the video for maybe 30 seconds or so until my Azure AI Hub and the storage and the Key Vault, everything gets created. And I'll come back when all of that stuff is done. All right, and indeed it took about 30 seconds or so, and all my resources are done. Let's go ahead and click on go to that resource. There is my Lino Hub that I just created. If I want to see all the things that got created, click on your resource group here in the portal, and you'll see there is a hub, there is the Key Vault, there is a storage account, and there is the Azure AI service as well. But notice there is no project, so still you'll need to go to the hub and create a brand new project when you get there as well. Before I actually go into the hub and start creating projects and so on, I just want to make sure that there are other resources that I'm going to need. One of them is the Azure AI Search resource. And I'm also going to use an outside Azure OpenAI account to deploy my models as well. So let's go ahead and create these two really quickly. I'm going to say create in here. And the first one will say Azure OpenAI. There you go. Oh, I misspelled it. Yes, of course I did. Azure OpenAI, there you go. And Azure, maybe there is no space in here. Let me make it easy on myself. There you go. We're going to go ahead and create one of those really quickly as well. And we'll just leave it in the US, and we'll say, for instance, this is Lino Azure Open AI. There you go, good enough for me. And the pricing tier, we only have the standard S0 here to use, and we'll say next. We will use all networks for right now, no tags, and we'll go ahead and create our Azure OpenAI. Great. Some of you would say, Lino, when you created the hub and the AI services, you have access to an Azure OpenAI. We will see why we had to create this one. There is still an obstacle in the current implementation as of February of 2025. I can't use the Azure OpenAI built in automatically with my hub and the project. You have to create your own to be able to use it for embedding and so on. So that's the reason why I did that at this moment. Probably this will change in the future as well. And indeed, it took about 10-15 seconds or so, and my resource is done. I can say go to the resource just to make sure that my AOI, yep, Azure OpenAI is ready to go. Let's go back to our resource group. There it is. And finally, I will go ahead and say create, and this time we'll say Azure AI Search. Let's create one of those as well. We'll say create and go for it. I'm going to leave it in the same resource group, and the service name will say Lino search, for instance. You can call it anything you want. I'm going to leave it in the same East US so everything can be in the same place. I'm going to leave also the pricing standard, but you can change the, I mean, this is expensive, but I'm only going to use it for half an hour, and then I'm going to shut it down just for making this video. But this is an expensive one. You can see the change pricing. It's about almost $250 per month, but it gives you 50 indexes, 50 indexers. I'm not going to need all that. I could easily use the free tier with 3 and 3. Or even the basic one, but let's just keep that because I'm gonna let it go really quickly and let it go so I don't have to spend any money. All right, sounds good. Let's go ahead and scale this. Networking will make it public, no tagging, and finally we'll go ahead and create that resource, which will take probably about maybe 45 or 50 seconds to create. So I'll come back after this is done. And indeed, after maybe less than a minute, we actually have our the Azure AI search ready. I can go to it and I have all the information that I need for my Lino search that I created. So now we get to the funny part of actually this video, is that I had to create like a couple of documents. It could be PDF, it could be Word documents, it could be whatever you would like. Just to have information inside of an image to show you. So let me show you the first document I created. This is making fun of some of my dearest friends here that I work with every day. So I created a document called Joel Houlihan, for instance, in here, and it has a lot of information about him, which state he lives in, the expertise, his titles, and everything. But I actually brought in one of his picture, and in the picture, whether you're going to use Paint or Snagit or any of these tools, I said the age is 85, which is, of course, is not true, but it's still funny to make fun of my friends. It's always awesome. So I created one of those. I created one also for a dear friend of mine, Kyle, and I said the age is 92. Remember, this is not text on this Word documents. This is part of the picture that I brought in. So if I end up vectorizing these documents, believe it or not, it will only vectorize the text. It will not know about anything inside of there. I mean, there's a lot of people that have the wrong impression. If I use, for instance, a vision-enabled model like GPT-4o, for instance, it's a multimodal, it will be able to grab this information from the picture. That is not true. You actually have to do an OCR from a third party or use something like the document intelligence resource inside of Azure to be able to capture anything. Maybe you're looking at a street for a picture and it has some signs and some text inside of these signs. It will not be picked up. It will not be vectorized unless you do the extra step of the OCR itself for the images. And then I'm going to show you also the third one, which is true actually. That's me, age 29. No, I'm just kidding. But it has all my information here as well. So let's go ahead and vectorize these 3 different documents and see how the system will be able to pick it up and make it part of the vector store as well. The first part, of course, I need to add that to a storage, but I need to make sure, remember, Lino Search will have to have access to these 3 Word documents that I created, and that's going to be available in a storage. So even if I go to a storage right now, you'll have to remember that they have to have access to each other. So I need to use the system management, really the system identity, to be able to allow my storage to be read from the Lino Search itself. So don't forget that part. So let's go ahead back to my resource group. Let's find out where my storage account is. There is my storage account. Couple of things we have to do. We need to actually make it the blob itself to be accessible publicly. So don't forget to go click on configuration all the way at the bottom there in the left side. And you will notice that allow blob anonymous access is disabled. You have to remember to make this enabled. Okay, so we'll say save. That's a very important piece as well. And now if I go to the containers, I don't have a container yet, so I'm going to go ahead and click you can call it, of course, whatever you want. I'm going to say my files or my stuff or something like that, all right? And then the anonymous access, instead of private, I'm going to say make it anonymous read access for these files. That's great. We'll say create this guy. And then I'm going to go to my container, and let's go ahead and upload these 3 files that I just showed you. We'll say upload. And I'm going to go ahead and say browse for files. And hopefully there is Joel, there is Kyle, and there is Lino. These are the 3 documents. We'll say open these guys up. And we'll go ahead and upload them into my storage. Okay, great. So that's the first step, that we have them and they have the correct access to be read. The only thing left, of course, is that this container or this storage account will not allow the search resource to be able to get these files from. So before we forget, we need to go back once. Let's go to the Lino search again. As a matter of fact, I need to go to the storage account. So let's go and click on the storage in here. And I am going to go to the IAM, access control for IAM, and I'm going to add a new role assignment in here. And in the role assignment, I'm going to look for storage read. Let's see if I see a storage. I'm going to go down a little bit till I see what I'm looking for. What did we call it? Storage. Blob reader. There you go. See, storage blob reader. We can give it owner and contributor, but it's too much privilege. We don't want to do that. We only want the storage blob reader itself. We'll say next. Who do we want to give that to? So I can make it based on users or groups or service principal, but it's easier to make it based on a managed identity. And I'm going to say select the members. And in here, you'll notice I would like to see here the Azure AI search, but it's not available. So something is wrong. I should see my Lino search, which is an Azure AI search, but it's not in here. And when you see something like this, that means something needs to change on the Azure AI search to allow for identity. So let's close this for a second. We will be back to it soon. We click on the Lino search one more time. And now in the Lino search, I'm going to go to identity, and you will notice in the identity that the system assigned is turned off, and that's why we were not able to see it. So let's click on in here, and we'll say save, and say yes, and we should be in good shape at this point. Yep. And now we can go back. Let's click on overview and click on the resource group one more time. We'll go to the storage, and I'll do the same thing one more time. We'll say access control, and we'll use the role assignment. And in here again, it will be storage, and usually the storage is going to be data reader. There you go. We'll say next. It is a managed identity, select member. And this time when I come in here, yes, search service is now allowed for system managed identity. I'm going to say, let's click on the Lino search, and we'll say select. And now they can actually play together and be nice to each other. So we'll be in good shape. We'll say next, next, and assign. All right. Usually, by the way, this takes about maybe a minute, so don't go do it really quickly. Just hopefully you can give it maybe 45 seconds to 60 seconds to propagate into the system this writes, and then everything else will work just fine. It is important to understand vectorizing these three documents have really nothing to do with the Azure AI Foundry so far. We're going to use that later on, but being able to take these three documents or 100 documents or 1,000 documents and create a vector store out of it really should be done in Azure AI Search or in Pinecone or in Cosmos DB way before you even get into the Azure AI Foundry. The fact that sometimes you can do these things from Azure AI Foundry, I find it to actually confuse people, because you end up working on so many different things at the same time, and it can be confusing. So let's go ahead and make sure that our document and everything else is vectorized correctly. All right, let's go to the Lino search one more time. And this time there is all the way at the top something called import and vectorized data. Excellent. Let's click on the import and vectorized data. Where are you going to get the data from? We know that we have it in a blob storage. Let's click on the blob storage. There is my subscription. The storage account in here will be the one that just got created for us. It's called Lino Hub with these weird numbers. Let's click on that. Which blob container? Remember, we called the folder My Files. I didn't create any subfolders, so we're going to leave that empty. And then from the options we have on the at the bottom in here, enable document layout, you can do that if you would like. This is brand new, actually, just came up this week. It's still in preview. You can enable detection tracking. The important part for me is the last one, authenticate using managed identity. I'm going to click on that. I'm going to leave it system assigned. If I click on next, it will work for me because I did the assignment. But if you get an error saying we do not have the right for the system assigned, that means you forgot to make what I did, which is allow system identity between the file storage, the container itself, and the Lino search service itself. All right, I'm going to say next. And that should actually work with no problems at this point. And then it will go to the next screen to start actually working on the vectorization itself. So let's give it a few seconds in here. I'll come back after this is done. Oh, well, I don't have to wait. It did it. Now it's going to ask me a very important question. And this is what everybody is confused about. And that's honestly why I did the video, is that we have multiple options in here. We have Azure OpenAI, Azure AI Foundry Catalog Model, AI vision vectorization. All of these are options. And if you click on AI Foundry Catalog Models, remember I already created a hub. I did not create a project yet, okay? So this will actually not work if I choose that right now. So that's why I went and created my own Azure OpenAI automatically. So if I say Azure OpenAI, in this subscription, it automatically found that I have something called Lino AO-AI in here, but it will give me a problem saying, hey, I could not find any deployment for embedding, whether it's like ADA002 or 3 small or 3 large. It couldn't find. Lino AO-AI doesn't have any of this. So again, I'm not going to be able to finish this yet. I have to go fix that and come back again and fill up this dialog. Okay, no problem. Let's go ahead and go back to my resource group. We'll say Lino search. We'll have to exit this, and we will go to the resource group one more time. This is when I'm going to go ahead and click on the hub. Remember, I don't have a project for AI Foundry. I only have a hub, and that's important to remember as well. I'm going to click on the Lino hub, and let's go ahead and launch the Azure AI Foundry at this point. And it will tell you that we don't have any project. It's completely empty. Let me go ahead and click a project in here. We'll say new project, and we'll say the project name. We can give it whatever name we want is fine. We'll say create this guy. Excellent. It took maybe 30 seconds or so, and the Lino 41434 project has been created. You might actually go run into models and endpoints and start deploying GPT-4o or other things and embedding 002 ADA or 03 and stuff like that. But remember, this project has its own models and endpoints and its own AI service. But remember, I created a completely different Azure AI that has nothing to do with Azure AI Foundry. And it's important to actually do, like I said, the vectorization completely outside of the ROM. I still had to create a project because I'm going to need it later on. But I wanted to make sure you know the difference between the two. So as a matter of fact, if I go back in here into the image vectorization resource group, instead of actually going to the hub, now you notice I have a project as well, I need to go to my own Azure OpenAI resource that I created earlier in this video. Let's click on that. And now notice I can say, go to the Azure AI Foundry portal, but that's not going to be based on my hub or my project. That will be a completely different access to this Lino AO-AI. So let's go ahead and click on that. This is not part of a project at this point, okay? So notice in here, it will be a different left menu in here that what you usually see when you actually open up a specific project, and that's an important piece. Let's go ahead and click on deployments, and there's no deployments in this. I'm gonna say deploy the model, and I can actually deploy whatever I want, but in reality right now, the only thing I need for vectorization in the Azure AI search, I just need an embedding model. So let's go ahead and put the number 3 in here. Let me put 3. And I'm going to use the text embedding 3 small. Okay, it has a 1536 different dimensions, which is great. It's almost identical to the ADA002. If you use the 3 large, it's 3000 dimensions. Again, you can try them both to see which one works best for you. I'm going to use the 3 small. We'll say confirm. And I can choose all the different defaults in here. It's still going to be in the East US. All looks good. We'll say deploy, and it will take only a couple of seconds. And you will notice that is successful and ready to go. Excellent. So now I need to go back to my search. So we'll click on here, and we will go to the search resource in my resource group. And let's do that one more time. I know we spent some time doing it before, but we will have to do it again. We'll go in here in the storage account. We'll say the Lino hub. And this one will be my files, and we'll say authenticate with this guy. We'll say next. So far so good. We've done this before. It's this screen that is now different. See, I'm going to use Azure OpenAI is my subscription. The Azure OpenAI service, there it is. That's the name of it. That's great. And then when I say the model deployment, if I bring this down, I should see my text embedding 3 small that I just deployed. Excellent. Let's click on that. I'm okay to leave it. API key is fine. I'm going to acknowledge that I'm going to have to pay money to do this. That's fine. We'll say next. And now this is the biggest part. If you ignore this, only the text in these Word documents will be vectorized. None of the information inside of the images will be vectorized at all, and you cannot ask questions about them. So in this time, I'm going to be a little bit more it's precise. I'm going to say I would like to vectorize the images. Where do you would like to use the kind There are also two choices in here: Azure AI Foundry Catalog Model, and there is the AI Vision Vectorization preview as well. As a matter of fact, for right now, I would recommend for you to use the AI Vision Vectorization preview. It will be in the Microsoft Regional Director. Then it will ask you select a multi-service account. I don't have one. I didn't create one yet, so this is going to be empty. But it's a good idea. Instead of having to redo all that work again, create a new AI service right from inside of here, so you don't have to redo all the 3 screens that we've done again. So we'll say create a new AI service. It will open up another tab right there, and we will be able to create a new service. Let's go ahead and wait for it to load. And there it is. I'm going to put it in the same exact resource group like everybody else. That's an important piece, by the way. And in here we'll say, we'll call it what? We'll call it Lino AI Services. Sounds good. And the pricing tier, we only have the standard S0. Oh, this one has already been taken. Okay, let's go ahead and say 02. How about that? Okay. Let's see if that is okay. Now, this one is available. Don't forget to check this box that you are going to be paying money for that. All right, we'll say next. And we're going to use all network for all the public networks. Next, identity. This is an important piece as well. You need to turn system assigned identity equals to on. Okay, and then we will say next. I don't need tags for right now. I'm going to review it, and I'm going to go ahead and create that resource. Great. And then we will wait a few seconds until the whole thing has been created. And indeed, it took less than 10 seconds, and now we have this. We can go to the resource to make sure that the Lino AI Services 02 has been created. Everything looks good. All right, now let's go ahead and finish up the previous dialog. So I'm going to go all the way to another tab. Where did we go? This one? Oh, this one. Okay, the import of the vectorization. Don't forget to click on this refresh, otherwise we will not see actually the information. There it is. Now we can see there is a multi-service account. This one has access to translation, to speech, to AI vision. So that's what I just created right now. So I'm going to click on it. I'm going to make the accessibility using system assigned. That's fine. And I'm going to acknowledge that I'm going to be paying money for that. Also, enrich your data with AI skills. So choose this to enrich your data by extracting the text from images in your document. Very important piece to click on that. And then you say use the same AI service selected. So it will end up using the same thing you're using for the vectorization of the images. Also for the AI skill for extracting text from the images. Excellent. So right now, if I do all that stuff and say next, let me show you what will happen. The last screen is advanced ranking and relevancy. So that's enabling semantic ranker, which is a great new feature actually in Azure OpenAI to be able to enable the semantic ranker to get even a better results whenever there is a lot of different hits using the sphere of knowledge inside of the vector store. And I'm going to choose the scheduling to happen only once. Of course, you can schedule that to happen every 5, 10 minutes or hourly or daily or whatever. All right, I'm going to say next, and let's see. Let's give it a name. For instance, I'm going to call it Lino, Kyle, Joel, Index. All right, you can call it whatever you want. And I'm going to say create. And now we're going to go ahead and wait a few minutes probably until, oh, there is a problem. I remember this problem. Whenever I did this, folks, which is unable to connect to AI services using managed identity, ensure the identity has been granted permission cognitive services user on the AI service. That means what? That means we have to go to the AI service and I have to grant cognitive services user. Otherwise, unfortunately, it will not work. So let me go ahead and do that in front of you as well so you can see how to fix that problem. So let's go back to our AI service we just created, this one, remember? And I'm going to say access control, and I'm going to say I'd like to add a role assignment to this resource. And I'm going to look for something called cognitive service user. Let's see if I can see it in here at the bottom. There it is, cognitive services user. You see this last one here at the bottom? That is the important one. We'll say next. It will be a managed identity. And let's select the member. And the search has to have access to it. So the last one, search service, we only have one service there. I'm going to click on that. That is the Lino search. Say select. And then assign that. Usually takes about maybe a minute to propagate through the system. So be patient with it. me click on the assignment. Okay, so from that point on, count 60 seconds or so to make sure you don't get an error. But if you come in here and click on create and it still gives you the same error, that means it did not propagate yet. So we will wait a few seconds, then let's see if it did. We'll say create. Yeah, it did not propagate yet. I will not have to do anything special. Just wait. Just be patient. Don't think that you did something wrong. It just didn't propagate through the system yet. But at some point in the next 60 seconds, when I click on this create, it will work. So I'm going to stop the video and come back in a minute. All right, let's give it another shot. Maybe I didn't wait enough. Still, we have to wait some more. All right, third time's a charm. Clicking on that. Oh yeah, this time it works. This time I actually had to wait over 2 minutes for this to propagate, but it's okay. Just be patient with it. Don't think that you did something wrong. I'm going to close this. All right, so right now between the indexes and the indexes, I can check on them. First of all, if I go to the indexes, notice that there is the name of the indexer in there. There are 3 documents. Remember, we had 3 Word documents. And if I click on indexes, you will see that it's 0 documents with 0 bytes. It might confuse you. Again, this takes time. It has to be queued in, and then the index will happen in the background. So come and visit here every maybe minute or so until you see. And you might expect for the documents to actually have 3. But remember, each one has an image, and I said I'd like to vectorize the image. So believe it or not, this is not going to be 3. This is probably going to be 6 because there are 3 images in the 3 documents. So other than the text, all images will be vectorized as well. So you can click on refresh here a couple of times every couple of minutes until you see the index happening as well. Be patient. Don't think that you did something wrong if you see zeros for a couple of minutes. It's totally okay. All right, indeed. It took about maybe 2.5 minutes, which is not a big deal. But now notice it's not only a 3 document count, it's 6 because there is the image in each and every single one as well. And it's at about 30 kilobytes. It's a very small. Of course, in real life, you'll probably have thousands of documents with thousands of images and so on. So it will take some time to vectorize all of that stuff. So put that in mind as well. But now that I have this, I'm ready to go. So how do I take advantage of all of that stuff? So let me go back to Azure AI Foundry. I want to go back to that Lino 4134, okay? And of course, I would like to create a prompt flow, maybe chat, and being able to use vectorization in it as well. But before I do that, remember that the Lino 4134 that we created doesn't have access to the resource we created for the Lino AI search. That was created outside of the Azure AI Foundry. So don't forget to go to the Management Center and create a brand new connection. Remember, my connections here, none of them are the AI search. It has its own Azure OpenAI. It has its own hub. It has its own AI service, blob storages. None of these things are what we worked on in the Azure AI search. It's all coming from the outside. All right, so I'm going to say new connection. And notice these are all the different assets that I can actually connect to. I want the Azure AI search right there. And because I put them actually in my subscription under the resource group, it sees that there is something called Lino search. And it's asking me, would you like to add that connection to be available to you inside of this project? I'm going to say, absolutely. Let's go ahead and add this connection. And from that point on, we are connected. We'll say close, and that will be added to this list in here. I can view all, and I can see all the rest of them as well, which is great. All right, let's go ahead now back to our project. And I would like to also, while I'm here for the project, let's go ahead and deploy a model that we can actually use for chat, because right now this specific project doesn't have any models whatsoever. So I'm going to say deploy a model. And we'll say maybe the 4.0, let's say GPT 4.0, so I can chat with a bot. We'll say confirm. And I'm going to be a little bit more generous because there are 3 documents and images. I'm going to click on customize, and I'm going to move my tokens per minute rate a little bit to the right side, maybe like 100 or something. Let's say deploy. So I don't have any problems with the amount of tokens per minute going back and forth. So that's great. It's successful. It's great. You do not have to deploy, by the way, an embedding model in here, but it's a good idea to do that as well if you would like. So I'm going to say, I would like, because if you don't deploy an embedding model and it's needed for embedding information, it will automatically load 88002. But in my case, I want always to use the same exact one I use for the vectorization, which is 003 small. So let's go ahead and send this one out as well, deploy it. All right, great. So now I can go back to my prompt flow and start having some fun. I'm going to go to prompt flows, click on that. I have none. I'm going to say create. And let's create one that says multi-round question and answer on your own data. We'll say clone this one. It has this weird name. We'll call it, for instance, my flow. I can call it anything we want. We'll say go for it, clone it. And again, if you get an error at this point, it means you didn't give enough time for the resource to actually be created. But we did, actually, because that's why I created the Lino 4134 almost 10 minutes ago. So by the time I get to this point, it will not give me the error. If you see the error, don't panic. You didn't do anything wrong. It's just it takes time to propagate through the system for the flow to be available. So just wait and then click on clone again, and then it will work. Sounds good? And indeed, the flow is being created. That's excellent. All right, there is my inputs, my modified history, my lookup, which is the most important part of this video. And now I'm going to click on the start compute session because that takes usually between a minute to 3 minutes. I'm going to need it to set up all the connections and the Azure OpenAI as well. So we'll have to start that. And that takes between 1 to 3 minutes to start the session. And then it will tell you when it's ready to go. So we'll come back after this has been started. All right, it took a few minutes and now the compute session is running. Let me first of all take anything that has to do with LLMs and set the connection correctly. So that's an important piece. Let's go ahead. First of all, in here for this LLM, I'm going to change the connection. We'll use this Lino hub and the deployment will be against GPT-4o is fine. The temperature is 0 and the maximum token is 1000. That's good enough for me. Let's go down a little bit, all the way down to another. Oh, by the way, the prompts automatically prompt flow create 3 variants, so you can do evaluation and find out which one is the best variant you should use for the prompt. I don't need 3 really, so I'm going to say show the variants. I'm only going to leave the _0, but I'm going to delete the 1 and the 2. So let's delete this one. You can leave them if you want, but I'm not interested in evaluations right now. Just want to get this to work. We'll delete that. All right, and the last one is the chat itself, right before it gives you the output. I'm going to change the connection here as well. And I'm going to go to the deployment name. Also GPT-4o that we deployed. Temperature 0. Maximum token is 1000. All right, everything looks good. Don't forget to save. And now we're going to concentrate our work on this lookup. And this is the trick in here. So let's go back to the lookup. And I would like to tell it to go get it from the Azure AI search. So I'm going to click on that for the machine learning index content. And if I bring this down, you will notice the first one will have shown up for the Azure AI search. Let's give it a sec. Okay, there is the Azure AI search. I'm going to click on that. And now I need to fill up all of these things, the connection. But the good news is that all of them are already pre-populated in the combo box. So you don't have to really remember the names or anything like that. So if I click on this one, there is the Lino search. Remember, you won't see this if you did not make the connection, okay, between your project and the Azure AI search connection itself. But I have it. What is the index name? Remember the one that had Lino or Joel and Kyle index and so on. Hopefully we will see that as well. Yeah, there it is. And then the content field, usually that is always the chunk. So let's go ahead and get the chunk. And then the embedding field in here. Let's wait for this to load. This is a confusing part. Should I make this based on a text vector or an image vector? And some of you might want to put the image vector, but remember, I already used during the vectorization an AI skill that will take all the content from the image and make it part of the text. So actually it's already part of the text vector. So I'm going to click on that text vector in here. And then the metadata field itself, again, will make it chunk as well. What is the semantic configuration? That got created automatically in Azure AI Search, and that had the Lino, Kyle, Joel index semantic configuration. That's the only one, so you don't have to miss that at all. What is the embedding type? The embedding type in here will be Azure OpenAI, and I get to choose which model do I want to use, and then which deployment model. And in my case, will be the embedding 3 small right there. So all of these things have to be filled in, and we went through all of that stuff during the last half an hour or so. And then I'm going to say save. And all the stuff will propagate to on my lookup. So the beautiful thing now is that, of course, the query will be coming in from the output of the history. And then what query type it is. It's of type string. I'm going to use a very strong one, which is the hybrid vector and keyword. So we'll use this one. And then the top K, I'm going to bring in the first 2 that comes back from the search itself. All right, let's go ahead and say save again. And drums rolling, please. I would like to go ahead and start a chat. Let's go ahead and say chat. And again, this specific cloning that we have done automatically have some samples in here, but that has nothing to do with what I'm doing, really. So I'm actually going to remove all of that stuff. I would like to ask a question, something like, what is Joel Hewlin expert in? All right, let's go ahead and push this in here, and let's wait a few seconds and we'll see what the system is going to respond. And if it was able to see into the lookup into the vectorized data text and content of image text as well, although this one will not require anything special about the images, because that information about the expertise is in the text portion. So that's the easy part. And the next questions will be something that will only be available, like the age of Joel or Kyle. So you see, Joel Hulen is an expert in software development, AI research, AI architecture, and AI development. Great. Now we do the million-dollar questions, like how old is Joel? Alrighty. And we'll push enter and we will wait a few seconds. And if it comes back with 85 years old, that means actually it was able to extract the content of the image itself, vectorize it, and put it part of the vector store as well. So we'll give it here another few seconds, and you will notice here it says running all the way to the top. When it says completed, it will be able to answer that as well. And look at that, Joel is 85 years old, and the only way it could have actually answered that if in the image itself it was able to grab the age of 85. There is no text to be found on that Word document. It is part of the image itself. And you can continue, of course, asking about Kyle and me and everybody else, and have fun with that. Hopefully this was a valuable way to see how this stuff works inside of Azure AI Search and Azure AI Foundry, and all the different things that you have to do as far as permissions and what to do with the vectorization as well. Hopefully this was useful, and if you liked it, please click on like, and if you'd like to be notified with future videos as well, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day.